Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Suburban Proletarian. My name is Greg. This is not going to be a very long video. There was no fancy intro segment. There's not going to be any cute thumbnail. This watch, the Citizen Promaster Diver, which I unboxed just the other day. As a matter of fact, I think the video was scheduled to drop like 20 minutes ago. But I filmed it a couple of days ago. Anyway, this watch does not have me in a particularly festive mood, and I'm just not in the mood for all that pageantry. Anyway, there will be a follow-up review of this watch forthcoming. This is not that video. I mean, I've only had it on the wrist for about 72 hours, but it's got me kind of ticked off. There's been some problems with this watch. Namely, there's been a bunch, and I talked a little bit about this in the unboxing. I added a short segment in the end of the last video to show this off. But namely, there was a bunch of manufacturing debris or fuzz or, I don't know, some kind of dust inside this watch. I cleaned no less than 4 pieces of dust off the dial. I cleaned a smudge off the inside of the crystal. This is a watch I've been waiting to have in my collection for, I don't know, probably 20 years. And I finally got my hands on one. And although I don't own a lot of Citizens, I'm a pretty big fan of Citizen. I think they generally are really, really good when it comes to quality control. But they really missed the boat on this particular watch. And I want to show it to you over on the tabletop. Well, there's not a lot to show. I've already cleaned it. But I do think there are a lot of good things about this watch, and I don't really want the sort of angry mood I'm in right now to fester and maybe taint the actual review I do of the watch later on, because I do have the correct tools. I'm by no means a watchmaker, but I do have all the correct tools, the case vise and the movement holders and the wrenches and all that other stuff. I'm perfectly capable of disassembling a watch and cleaning the dial of it. That's a very simple thing to do, but it's something that you shouldn't have to do with a brand new watch. And one of the big selling points of the Citizen Promaster Diver, like the Seiko SKX, is that it's ISO certified. It's an ISO certified dive watch. And one thing that certification means is that each watch is individually pressure tested after it's assembled. And as soon as you take the case back off of a watch that's been pressure tested, it's not pressure tested anymore. So you've got a brand new watch that was ISO certified. I guess technically still is ISO certified. And I have no doubt, I know what I'm doing opening up watch cases. I have no doubt that it's still watertight, but it's not factory sealed anymore. And that's annoying to me. So anyway, let's move over to the tabletop. I don't really have a lot to show you, but I want to talk about it a little bit, just show you what I'm talking about, and then we'll go ahead and wrap this up, because again, I don't want this to be long, but I wanted to get it out there. I wanted to get it off my chest, and I don't want it tainting the upcoming review that will be happening in the next couple of weeks. So let's go do it. All right, so this is not going to be long. I just gave you a pretty good look at the watch a day or two ago. It's just to illustrate a couple of problems that I've had with this thing in just the couple of days that I've had it so far. And unfortunately, I don't want to move the hands. I don't want to screw up the time here. But I'm about to show you a video clip, which was included in the last video, that shows a piece of crud right around here on the dial, in between the date window and the handset. And you'll see it looks a little bit like a hair follicle. I don't know what it was, but it was big, and it was moving around as I would shift the watch. And so I had to open the watch up. I had to remove the case back to take the entire movement out, and I dusted the dial. It managed to move up into the corner between the bezel ring and the crystal up here. So I had to get up in there with a tiny little paintbrush and dust all of this out. I found a couple other pieces of dust on the dial, which I brushed off, but I mean, that one was really quite big. There's no way that should have made it past quality control.
And when I had the watch open, I was wearing finger cots. Oh, actually, I was wearing nitrile gloves, to be perfectly honest. So I know I didn't put the smudge, and I'm also always very careful not to try not to touch the inside of the crystal. And there was a pretty egregious smudge on the inside of the crystal also. So I got in there with a microfiber cloth and cleaned the inside of the crystal. I got that smudge off of the inside. As I said, I knocked a couple of other pieces of dust off of the dial. Just not what I have come to expect from Citizen. If anything, I think Citizen is generally a bit better about these sort of things than Seiko is, or Orient. Actually, I haven't had any dust and debris inside a Seiko or an Orient either, but just saying general overall quality control. And by the way, in my last video, I want to be perfectly honest about this watch. I am upset about all the debris and smudges that were in there. When I did the unboxing, I thought that the bezel ring was not lining up very well with the chapter ring and the 12 o'clock index mark. And you can see it's not perfect, but it's very, very close. I mean, it's certainly well within standards, and I guess I kind of overemphasized that in the last video. But this issue with the dust is driving me nuts, and I just wanted to get it off my chest once again, because I don't want it to taint the actual review of the watch, because I think there's a lot of really good things about this watch, and it's a really classic watch, and I don't want to badmouth it when I do the video necessarily, but I didn't want this whole issue with the dial and the crystal to be festering and kind of taint the upcoming review. Be sure I'm not going to whitewash it when I do these issues. I'm not going to whitewash those when I do the review either. I will mention it, but I just didn't want that being the main focus of my feeling about the watch. So let's go wrap this up.
So I guess I don't really have much else to say. I just don't think that dust and smudges on crystals, and actually there was one more piece of dust. I was going to open up the watch a fourth time. I don't know if I mentioned that already, but I had to open the watch 3 times, and I was going to open it a fourth time, but the last piece of dust has disappeared, which means that it probably went down through the date window and is now banging around inside the movement. So that's not great, but it is what it is. I'm sure every watch that you buy ends up with some little thing inside the case. I know that they're assembled in, well, they're supposed to be assembled in clean rooms. Nothing is perfect. There's probably some little piece of crap inside of every watch, but knowing that it's in there will always be on my mind. And I mean, the Miyota 8200 series movement is serviceable, but it's generally not a movement that gets serviced. Usually when it goes bad, you chuck it away and put a new one in. A brand new Miyota 8200 movement is probably like 50 bucks, or maybe less than that. I'm not even sure. But it probably won't affect anything. The watch will probably run fine for 20 years. But just knowing that that dust is in there is always going to be on my mind. And, you know, someday I'm going to be on vacation, trying to enjoy myself. I'll have the watch with me, and that little piece of dust, the one that I didn't get, is going to reemerge out through the date window and end up on the dial, and I'm not going to have any tools with me or anything else to deal with it. And I'm going to have to take the watch off very carefully and put it aside, and hopefully I'll have a different watch with me. But, you know, I don't know, but I might have a small problem. Anyway, hopefully this video has proven helpful to somebody out there. If you enjoyed it, please consider becoming a subscriber. It goes a very long way to help keep me here on the tube. If you're already a subscriber and you haven't clicked the little bell icon down below, please do that. That'll allow YouTube to send you notifications when I post new content to the channel. Like, share, tell your friends, and when I come back here with a new video, I hope to see each of you here then. Later, guys.